right now, and if not,
DDA at Gmail. So
yeah.
Laura, if we can show you what we,
Yours.
it's very
Yeah.
simple. You just set up a Gmail with your name, DDA at Gmail.
yeah.
I just followed Caesar's when I got on and just kind of did that, and it's fine.
Okay.
So we can get you and Andy to do that if we're not going to get them, that'll be okay.
Yeah, and that's currently listed to the public on the website, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Is that the at DDA?
Yeah, and the website needs to kind of be updated, but I was kind of waiting to see what to update it with. But yeah, I don't think that Laura's on there.
And Laura and Andy's probably,
I'm not on there, I don't think Andy's on there.
yeah, Laura and Andy definitely will be.
What is it, needs to be updated?
Just the DDA listing of the
DDA
directors, I mean,
DDA
yeah.
emails.
And about the training, I mean, it's a online training?
Yeah, it's virtual.
Okay, and so, what's the date on that?
May 5th, I believe.
What can I give to you too?
And
Carl Vinson.
there was, because I attended it just a couple of weeks ago, you may be exempt. There are some exemptions if you're also on the city council. You may want to check into that before you, I mean, it was a very good class. It was an all-day class. It was,
It's
it was
like
a
8
lot of
hours.
Is that
Yeah.
the essentials?
It was the part one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did you have to drive up and go over there?
It
No,
was
it's
the
all
Zoom.
It was online, okay,
Yeah.
okay, good.
That's
Did
the
you
way
go
I,
through
the way I
the
have it.
training when you did your city council training? Because sometimes.
Was there
there's
anything on
costs.
DDA? At Bill? I don't think there was.
Oh, there wasn't?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
There has been in the past, but they never.
I believe the first time I went, there was a little bit, but not like a day class though.
No, yeah, there's a whole day essentials.
Yeah, essentials thing they
Did
call
it
it.
take you all day to do it?
It was an all-day class. It is like a full.
Yeah, you can't speak through it, you can't do this. I understand that, let's keep going.
Bite the bullet, bite the bullet.
But they're very exciting, they're very happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. it was
They're very exciting and
interesting.
happy. Okay, yeah, so just bring that into us, so we'll get you reimbursed for that. Okay, that's it. Moving on to Caesar.
I don't have any.
Caesar's got nothing today, which is fine. Caesar had carried the load for a long time when we were all starting. Laura?
Other than the comment and my concerns about 5G, I don't have anything. I think there's some people here in the audience
Sure.
that's going to speak more up to that point.
And then the last we had was Andy. Andy's not in attendance tonight. He told me last month that he would be out of town for this evening. So that wraps that up. So with that being said, we'll move to the public comment section. If someone would like to talk about anything we discussed or anything else, just come forward and just give us your name. So now that Dr. Thompson's got the microphone on, it'll pick up. We should be good.
Good. Well, thank you guys for all you do. I'm Dr. Ann Merkel, and as you already know, I have studied the techniques of implementing Wi-Fi and electromagnetic frequencies and radiations, and looking into 5G and the health aspects of that. I'm not anti electronics by any means, because in 1984 I wrote my first doctoral dissertation on the use of computer-assisted instruction. And I've had the newest devices and everything for my whole career. What I am concerned about is that so many people are getting autoimmune and chronic health disorders because of use of electronic devices and because of Wi-Fi. Now, you may ask, well, you know, where's the writing on the wall? Because there's a lot of debate. There's a huge lobby that goes to our elected officials that basically is coming from the telecom industry saying, everything's fine, everything's safe. If you read the small print on your cell phone box when you buy a cell phone, they do say, yes, you know, only use it certain ways for your health. I'd like to just cite, and I will send you all a copy because there's some really good information in it. But there's a woman, Dr. Magna Havas, who is at Trent University in Canada, and she is an environmental toxicologist and has been studying the harmful effects of just basic electricity living near power lines, as well as radiation and millimeter radiation coming in the form of, let there right now from the satellites for 5G worldwide. And in 1995, she said, I really need to go deeper with this research because she was finding so many health issues. And she was looking at dirty electricity, which the southeast United States is worse than any other country or region in the world for dirty electricity. And when I was hiring an electrician locally to try to find out if my house had dirty electricity, because I was always getting feelings and headaches and stuff like that, this electrician was, he had said he knew what dirty electricity was, and what he was talking about was grounding. And he came into my house and I gave him an hour-long lecture about what dirty electricity really is and how you measure it with meters and what it does to your body. And it can come from not even using Wi-Fi. It can come from just wires that are not balanced right with magnetics and everything. So that's something that needs to be cleared up. There are devices you can filter out your dirty electricity in your home or office, and I've gone to people's homes and offices to test for dirty electricity. And there are radio frequencies, there are microwave frequencies, there are lots of different things to measure. So, dirty electricity has, it isn't just about grounding. It is a specific thing. Back in 2012, there was a study, not a study done, but lots of studies done, but the estimate was that an average of 3% of the world's population was electronic hypersensitive. And what that means is that they have chronic health issues because of electromagnetic fields. And they estimate now that at least 40% of people don't know that they've got sensitivity, but they are, in fact, suffering chronic illness, and they don't know why because that's not taught in medical school at this point. But there are blood tests you can take to see if your blood is coagulating, if it's getting sticky, if you're not able to carry the oxygen, etc. But anyway, Magna Havas found a body of research that was published in 1971 with 2,000 references. Now, 1971 was a long time ago, right? And all these references were from the 40s, 50s, 60s. And they were all compiled by a man named Zori Glazer. And he handed over all of his data, all of the information. And now there is a website, it's called zoriglazer.com, with, like I said, over 2,000 references to this data. Now then the question is, what about the fact that this came out in the 40s, 50s, and 60s? Most of it was military, it was classified at the time, so it didn't come out until years later. Everything in the zoriglazer.com is declassified now, but it was, what does this basically say? And it says that the military and physicists and engineers were working with electronics and measuring the effectiveness. And they thought at that point that microwaves, which were developed after radar, because they're kind of the same technology, that microwaves basically just heated the body, and so you had to watch out and not get burned. But basically they found that as a result of that, you could get cataracts and you could be infertile. So they knew there were a couple things having to do with heat from microwave. But then they went into the more recent information of what goes beyond just the heat, because physicists and engineers don't know the biology and the medicine of what the human body reacts and how it reacts to electrical fields. And what they found there was that, this was after many studies with dogs and other animals and blah, 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 but they said that basically there were many, many things that Electronics damage the DNA, damage chromosomes, are mutagenic, meaning they change your genes. They can cause cancer. They have interference with the testicles and the sperm. There's a whole series of hormonal, neurological, and immunological effects at lower levels of exposures. And this was back in the 70s when they already knew that. And they said, well, you know, this is old data. You know, the newer stuff is more dangerous. But we have more tools now to measure it. So there's really no excuse for not putting this out in the open, except that the telecom industry owns the economy of the world. They and the pharmaceutical industry. If you want to do your due diligence, go into the world economies and what it's based on, and you'll find that those are the two top industries that drive all of the money systems, all the international banking systems, and you know, we're talking lots of cover-up here of what could be detrimental to our bodies. Okay, so I will send you this information. There is currently a public health SOS committee with over 200 people worldwide that have meters and that go and study their environment to check on increasing levels of electromagnetic, you know, fields and RF and millimeter waves in their environments, and then they report into a central agency. And if you're interested in that, it's called globalemf.com, and all the data's there. You can find who's doing the research, where they're located worldwide, and what they're finding. I will also send you something put out by Dr. Arthur Furstenberg, who is spearheading the group in Santa Fe, New Mexico, that have gone all the way to the Supreme Court to keep 5G totally out of Santa Fe, New Mexico. Now, when you were talking about, Russell, the Toro Blanco group and how they put it into New Orleans and they put the repeater satellites into Colorado, into where was it?
Steamboat.
Steamboat, right. And what was the other town? Was it Miami, or where was the third one that you mentioned? Anyway, you know, I know Steamboat, I know New Orleans, and I also know Santa Fe. And the city that's closest to Blue Ridge is Santa Fe. You know, we're not a big ski resort with hundreds and hundreds of people coming in, but we are a tourist and an art center, which is what Santa Fe, New Mexico is. And they care about their environment and always have. So, you know, that is what I will send you another link there to Arthur Furstenberg's. You know, he's written books, he's got the credentials, he's been studying this for years and years, and he's very concerned about it. So I had a question, Russell, about what they have proposed. Are they using the picocell or the femtocell repeater booster satellites, or are they tying right into the cell phone companies?
This would tie into the networks that are already here.
Okay, but there's a difference, because the picocells can be placed around town and they boost what is already in the cell towers. There's a whole different technology where 5G is, you know, they have their small millimeter towers that you can put on lampposts and places too, which is what you're finding around the big cities. And they go directly to the satellites and to the big cell towers, and they go directly through the cell phone industry and their companies to, you know, give you really heavy duty, you know, radiation.
Well, the Toro Blanco itself is not going to transmit a signal.
Right.
Okay, Toro,
Yeah.
let's define that. Toro Blanco.
They make it really pretty to put.
They provide
satellites.
infrastructure.
Yeah.
Okay, the coverage that would be provided would be via the existing cell phone providers that are already here in Blue Ridge. T-Mobile, AT&T,
Right,
Verizon.
And Google and Amazon will get a bite out of it too.
I mean, you know, that's yet to be determined. I mean, I don't know what will be.
Well, they're out there on the cell towers.
You know that they're on the cell towers here right now? You can prove it?
I can look online and tell you the sites.
Yeah, I can, and that's why I'm
But
asking.
they'll tell you exactly what's on every cell phone in your neighborhood, or cell tower. And you can tell exactly where it's
So-
connected and what it's sending.
Yeah, so right now, the way these would set up is they would feed back into the existing systems via fiber, which is already in the street here in Blue Ridge.
Yeah, fiber's great if you can hardwire it and put an antenna to speak it out. Yeah, that's much safer than Wi-Fi. Or bringing it from the satellite.
So, Dr. Merkel, I have a question because we're just a small group here, and this is a very technical, a very scientific area. We're going to get some proposed ordinances from the Toro Company.
Oh,
Other
we
than
need to
Santa
get them
Fe-
from the non-interested parties too.
Right, because
Like
that's,
Arthur.
I understand that. You don't want someone that's going to benefit, proposing what the rules I'm going to play by. I
Right.
totally understand that. But on the other side that you're coming from, other than Santa Fe, do you have any, because I don't know how much time we have to research this.
The whole
Do you-
country of Switzerland has banned 5G.
So there are ordinances that's already been written with scientists that have been
All
hired to help
And
with
the
all of that.
legalities are out there. There are lots of attorneys that have written up the forms and are willing to help cities like ours to do it.
Could you email some of those links to us so that we can have something to kind of weigh it against? And
Yeah, when I first connected with you, it's like, I'm busy with my practice and stuff too, so. But I started going back to what I thought would compile the most information for you, so you wouldn't have to, start research from scratch. So I don't want to waste your time. I know this isn't your area of interest, but in the sense of health, for your families, your neighbors, your children, your grandchildren, it's important. So I wanted to ask you, did Toro Blanco approach Blue Ridge, or did you approach them?
I approached them.
Okay. And who else offered, there are many companies that
Sure.
do what Toro Blanco does.
Absolutely.
Would you consider getting several different proposals?
That would be up to the city.
Okay.
And that's the whole point. We would have the initial meeting with the city,
Mhm.
let the city begin its due diligence, determine whether or not it wants to put it out to proposal, whether they want to deal with them directly. That's going to be a decision mayor, council, and others will make.
Okay. And is Toro Blanco being paid by you guys? Are they paying you to
No.
submit the proposal and do the work?
Absolutely not.
So they're getting paid by the telecom company
They're getting paid by no one.
if they do the job?
If they do the job, yes. Their financial gain would be if they do the project,
Right.
and that's an if.
Yeah. But they get paid by,
They would receive, if they built the infrastructure and the carriers located on the infrastructure, then the carriers would pay lease rent to be on those structures.
right.
Just like carriers pay to be on cell towers now.
And there are many, many of us, even some in the audience, that have been approached by the telecom
Sure.
industry. Can we use your land to put up
Sure.
a cell tower?
Absolutely.
And they're really willing to pay
Absolutely.
money. They're even trying to get people in neighborhoods to be paid $600 to put a Wi-Fi antenna for the whole neighborhood that the neighbors don't even know is there.
I can't speak to that, so I don't.
Well, it's out there, yeah. It's interesting. Okay, so, thank you for allowing me to give my 2 cents worth. I also, yesterday afternoon, I posted on Blue Ridge 411 a survey because you all had brought up the whole idea of putting together a plan in order to, make sure that, we don't have things run ahead of what Blue Ridge is ready for. And I tried to make it very, unpolitical. If you want to go, it's still there on Blue Ridge 411, which is a site visited by a lot of visitors as well as natives, and it's, sharing information about in search of a painter or, where's a good restaurant to eat or whatever. But it's a good mix of the population. So I have 8 questions. And the winners, first of all, that everybody said is, we want to maintain natural beauty while offering small town quality arts, crafts, restaurants, services, etc. Okay. The second one, the other 2 that came in first were, they want to provide a place for themselves to be off-duty and unplugged electronically when they so desire. The other one was they want to be in a place that provides a natural oasis where they can live or visit. Okay, there were, I asked for comments if people wanted to, just make comments of what Blue Ridge would be nice. And what came up over and over again was we really do need a comprehensive plan. We really do need to stop before this gets out of hand and it becomes another Pigeon Forge instead of the beautiful little Gatlinburg that started out. And some of the comments were, we need a comprehensive plan, we're already having power surges because of new construction in our neighborhood. And this brings up another thing that I want to really urge, and I'm not just beating on you guys, but I'm going to go to the city council and the county commissioner about keeping crypto mining out of here. The cryptocurrency mining is horrible. It brings even more electromagnetics. I can bring you pictures of what's going on up in outside of Brasstown in Clay County. And Cherokee and Clay are both fighting against it, but it's too late. They've already got these things. And they're draining the electricity out of the grid. At the same time, they're putting out noise that's creating tinnitus, tinnitus, ringing in the ears for everybody within miles. And the electromagnetic fields are bothering people miles away. So we've got to do something on all levels to keep that out of Fannin County. Okay, so here's somebody that left Blue Ridge after 10 years due to the city officials supporting the other choices here, which is offer more big box opportunities just like metropolitan areas, endorse growth in urban sprawl, put tourists above residents in downtown economic development decisions, and make sure that this region offers every amenity that you find in Atlanta or elsewhere in the metropolitan area. So that is what the people do not want. Nobody voted for any of those, but they're afraid that that has been what the trend has moved toward, and some of the decisions of the governing individuals and parties have gone in that direction. Some people say they moved here because this was their mecca, and then they had to get away, and they left after X number of years because of the way it's changed. And I've known several of those people personally. A lot of people say they just want to get away from the metro areas, and they're happy here, and they can travel somewhere else for the big box amenities if they don't have them shipped in, because everybody ships these days, and they're used to that. Okay, and I won't bore you, but I will send you some of the other comments that were very, very well said, and one of them wants the EPA and the State Health Department, and they want everybody audited that's ever been in city or county government, just because they think things are already way out of hand. So, we could go to all extremes here, but this was just a simple little thing that I threw up yesterday afternoon. I checked it before I came over here. There were 229 people that had commented. And, that's a pretty good response on 8 little things. Just give me your impression. So, anyway, any of you have questions for me? I'll start feeding stuff to, is it okay if I send it to you, Laura?
Yes, and I can
And
distribute
then you
it to
can send it so I don't, bother everybody personally.
Yes, thank you, that's very helpful.
All right, well, thanks for listening, and just know that I treat people every day, and a lot of people are getting brain cancer because of holding either cordless phones or cell phones up to their bodies. And you know the fertility issue of young people is going way up these days. And where do the guys carry their cell phones? And where do girls stick theirs? You know, we're getting lots of health problems we didn't have before. And this is electronics. So we have to have good electronic hygiene. And it's amazing what that'll do for your body. Okay, thank you. Turn
Thank
off
you.
your Wi-Fis and modems at night. Let yourself sleep.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Sue Campbell. I live out in Sugar Creek, so I'm not in the immediate target area. I admit to being technologically challenged.
That's okay.
Why? Why do we need this? I don't understand.
The issue that downtown is facing right now is we're just flooded on the weekends. It's actually making cell
I'm sorry, it's what?
making cell phones hard to use as far as actually accessing the internet, different things like that, which runs into vendor issues. I know that we had vendor issues at like Arts in the Park where they could not
We had
make
emergency
transactions.
service issues as well, so
Yeah.
communications, we had someone injured at one of the festivals, and between staffing and producers, with it crashing essentially, Verizon went down, it was inundated. They could not communicate between each other, and there was someone who was injured.
Well,
So
Those
that-
issues keep occurring,
That's the whole reason this is even being looked into.
and businesses also, with their internet access using Square or any of that internet-based and Wi-Fi-based credit card usage, when it is a festival weekend, for example, and now what seems to be every weekend, they tend to take a hit, and the businesses then either slow down or cannot make a single purchase in a small town.
I think the Square does have an option for remote area festivals that you can swipe it and then
It stores it necessarily, but there has been loss of sales. We have had several festivals where individuals have relied on that, and they've had loss of sales in product.
that's happened.
Yeah. Unless you're knuckle busting, which we've used before, the good old knuckle busters.
we're teasing the people who come here to get a rest, to relax, and to be more open. We're pleasing them to have better technology. What about the people that live here all the time? What are you doing to enhance their lives?
I think,
I think that's-
yeah, I think, you know, there's a mix, okay, there is. I mean, there are a lot of people who live here that want technology and things like that, just based on the world today. So it's a mix. It's not like everyone that lives in Blue Ridge doesn't want cell phones at all, and everyone that comes here demands to have cell phones and internet. It's a mix of both. So it's more of just looking at, yeah, accessibility to it in terms of when you're in the central business district, can people use their phones? Can they access the internet for whatever reason? Now, and some people find that off-putting. They say that's a waste, and maybe to a certain extent it is. But you know, by that same token, the society we're in today is very electronically connected, good for good or bad. It kind of is what it is.
Well, what research I've done that I can understand,
Yes, ma'am.
when you have units upon units upon units in the big, whatever we call them, people's living, I forget the word, but
Apartments, condo.
right,
Yes, ma'am.
condos, thank you. I already understand that is impacting their neighbors. And so if when people are gathered close together, and it's a compiling of energies, I know I'm talking very, you know, plainly. But I can't see any real advantage, except money. Somebody's
Well,
gonna,
I mean, I think, and I'll let Nicole speak to this. One thing that I think everyone needs to understand a little bit here is that currently today, there is Wi-Fi in town. There is, what we're talking about is not, and like I said, again, this goes back to the city will have an opportunity to make a decision what they want to do. But currently, there is a Wi-Fi system here in town. There's currently cell phone coverage here in town. There is currently fiber in the ground cable, fiber and above ground cable-based internet here in town. So that is all here today as we speak. The question, and then Dr. Merkel and others have raised, is going from what is currently out there, which most people term the fourth generation of wireless technology, to now when they say 5G, that represents the fifth generation of wireless technology, which obviously started with 1G, and it has progressed over the last 25, 30 years. We currently have in town 4G coverage and fourth generation, what they call LTE coverage, is here in the community today. And it's been here for probably 6, 8 years since they upgraded from 4G to 4G LTE. So that's already here. That's not changing. It's just what is happening in the world is when we had cell phones and everybody got a cell phone, it was a great joy to have a cell phone, because you could be in your car and talk to somebody, which you can't do now legally. Then the phones became smart, and the iPads were invented, and they were smart. So you could look up anything you wanted, whether it was extremely important or extremely trivial, on your phone or your iPad or whatever you may have with you. And that has become somewhat of a tether that everybody has in the world today. They look up everything quickly. Oh, I don't know where to go. We look this up. I do these kind of things. The advancement of telecom over the years has mainly been to try to keep up with that demand. Yes, they're getting paid for it. Yeah, absolutely they are. But it was to keep up with that demand, not so much I pick up the phone and call you at your house to see, if you're coming to town later today or whatever. So it is here. This is the next generation of it.
but I haven't heard you mention anything about towers with boxes up to 5 that are hanging instead of just one box up on the tower. That is radiating areas. Even back in the early 70s, I was in Colorado where they were building the power lines were accentuated with need. And it was killing the fauna